representing Team 60s, Janice Maffei is a playwright, poet, and storyteller who appeared in our very first show. We also invited Janice to do stand-up at our first Funny Over 50 show 2 years ago, which is a showcase for funny folk over 50. And now she's appearing at comedy clubs all over the city, having a sudden resurgence as a stand-up comedian. This is a story that she told on the theme Advice to My Younger Self. Please welcome to the stage my friend and yours, Janice Maffei.
It's just great to be here, and here we go. The phone rings. It's dingy yellow, bolted to the wall with the same long, annoying cord that every phone had in 1977. It's a college friend who's calling about an opportunity, another English major who's done what many young women who wanted exciting careers after college were encouraged to do. She's gone to secretarial school. Because back then, in order to get involved in a hot field like TV, it meant you started as a secretary. And that with luck and perseverance, after years of collating copies and getting coffee, for men, you might work your way into a real job, the kind the men have. She says, they're doing auditions at PBS, and I think you might be good. She says, I'm not in charge of anything, but I keep the list. You wanna? Did I immediately move heaven and earth to get there, maybe even buy a new pair of pantyhose? Or B, think, no way will this ever happen, but yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. Or C, did I hang up the phone and never follow up? You'd be right if you said C, because that's what I did. Now, was I blissfully happy as an internal auditor at an insurance company? Perhaps not. But I lacked the self-image, the personal belief in myself that I was actually worthy of even trying. So, consumed with doubt, I talked myself into defeat on the linoleum floor in a kitchen with a yellow phone. So here is lesson number 1 in Advice to My Younger Self. These are from the disturbing but true annals of my life story. Greet doubt as you would a doorman at a building where you're trying to get to the 9th floor. Just hey and move on past. You must believe in yourself mightily and without reservation. Do not wait for validation or encouragement. Do not search for a cheerleader. Show up every day for your life and make believe if you must. And with a quick nod to the doorman of doubt, just walk on by. Then, in my 30s, my mother died suddenly on the eve of my father's final diagnosis with Alzheimer's. It ushered in a really tough period. My father's tragic decline over 10 years. I had a 3-year-old son who was entering a massive growth spurt. I had just begun my own consulting company, and it was tough days. And I was trying to keep family life together and trying to materialize a meal one day, late in the day. And I went to the freezer searching for a miracle, and I found one. There it was. It was a bag of frozen meatballs made by my mother. I was a decent cook, but there was one thing I relied on her for, those tender, sparky meatballs that everyone who's ever had them knows are literally the best in the world. It involved moulig, which is a dry Italian thing that it's pretty interesting, and fresh parsley, pecorino cheese. And I was happy to yield meatball supremacy to her. We had a very fraught relationship, and this was one way we bridged it, her periodic gift of frozen meatballs. So, as I dropped them into the hot gravy, I realized, I'd never actually gotten the recipe. Never had we ever made them together. My mother died, I had 11 frozen meatballs, and then I was shit out of luck, basically. So my advice to my younger self is get the meatball recipe. You know, figure out who carries traditions in your family and step up to learning them now. Don't wait, get the recipe. You know, I learned most things about kindness from my sister Linda. When I was in college, she sent me a card with $1 in it every week. I think she assumed I was buying a Coke. Actually, I was buying packs of Parliament in the box. You know, that was kind of what I did back then. Not especially proud of that, but she did this every week for 4 years. And cut to, in my 40s, my sister is now teaching 3rd grade in North Carolina, and she's telling me about a Mother's Day project she has underway with her kids, and she's deeply moved by the tributes these kids are writing for their mothers. And she makes it clear to me that these kids, with all their magic and heart, will have little in the way of coin to give to their mothers besides, you know, the stories. And when we hang up, I'm very moved to figure out something I could do for her. Granted, it took me about 2 decades to figure out how to return her kindness, but I'm like, what could I do here that would make a difference? And so I sent along 24 orchids that arrived in her 3rd grade class, you know, the Friday before Mother's Day. And these kids had never seen an orchid before, and they took them home like almost like precious chicks and presented them to you know, their mothers. And my learning from that is ask yourself the question, who do your loved ones love? And do something nice for them, because it magnifies the goodness in the relationship that you already have. It's super powerful. And here's what I found was the kicker for me. Remember my defeat on the linoleum floor? I have found that these simple acts of kindness have actually buoyed my own sense of self-worth over the years. There's a lot of goodness that comes back to you in that process. Now, that college friend who was working her way into an interesting field by way of secretarial school, she had an actual career in film and television. And so I wished I'd understood then that when I was younger, that going after your plan A may mean sacrifice. It may mean doing something a little crazy for a longer term payoff. As to the lost meatball recipe, my learning there is to take what has hurt you and see how it might settle into wisdom. Don't lose it. For me, it meant writing. In my 50s, I began a play that came to be titled How to Bury a Saint. And the play pivoted on the plot point of a lost meatball recipe, passing imperfectly through generations. And it took me a couple of years to finish, but in my 60s, it got an actual equity production and a pretty nice New York Times review. So it's never too late to reclaim Plan A, is I guess one of the lessons there. So about 10 years ago, I was going through a rough patch, and my sister Linda began to send me cards again, and she said to me, you know, I'm going to send you a card every week from now until forever. And here's the one I just got yesterday. She sends me a card every week. Now, instead of $1, it has like $5 in it. So it's incredible. It's really, really great. So, you know, she continues to teach me how to be a decent person, and she's an essential part of a circle of women, many of them in this room here tonight, that have made all the difference in my life. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love men. I have a fantastic son, stepson, a couple of excellent brothers. I even have a terrific ex-husband. But when I take the measure of my days, I see that women have shaped and supported me. They've forged my essence. So I close with these words that I've written to honor the women in my life. Build a cupboard. You'll need one when the heartache comes or the big chance knocks and you're knee-deep in doubt, when life's lottery says you won, or tough news by phone is close to home. Build a cupboard you swing open, stocked with women you cherish, friend, sister, teacher, muse, women who, like an ancient remedy handed down by generations, carry the tincture, tonic to soothe the soul, vinegar to wake you, lemon balm to calm, elderberry wine to praise any given day. Honor the women who hoist a velvet hammer to your darker dreams, who wrangle truth, neuter fear, who listen so deep their ears might bleed. You are the women who have made me the woman I am. I borrow your strength. I mirror your goodness. I trace your genie and feel the flutter as my wings bud. Praise the women who carry you forward. Go build your cupboard. But first, stash yourself in the cupboards of others. Thank you so very much. So if you liked that poem, I have sort of bookmark-sized versions of it. And they're yours. Just take one. They'll be on the merch table, which is going to be out in the lobby. So please help yourself. I welcome you to it.